folks, welcome back. I'm trying to sneak something in here. I'm supposed to be leaving on vacation in less than 36 hours. But I got stuff that I want to do. I want to try to get done here real quick. Alright, this is part 4 of the finishing series of Fun with Wood. So we have these 3 pieces of full thickness Honduran rosewood, zebra wood, spalted maple. I did forget this piece. This is a very important piece. This is just a piece of Sitka spruce, but it also happens to be off of the same piece of wood that is the replacement piece, replacement top for the Lazarus guitar. So let me show you where we're at. These are the pieces that are cut out, and again, in no particular order. You can see that there has been some glue seepage to come through there. These have not been sanded, by the way. These are just the way that they came out. These 2 pieces in particular, they're kind of bent. This one's really bad. I don't know what the deal is with this. This is that piece of Carpathian burl, maybe. But I don't know if this is, if it's just because this is a bunch of end grain, and because there's been a humidity change since we glued this down, if that is enough to cause these 2 pieces of wood. This is a piece of plywood. It's got a hole cut in it, 3-ply basswood plywood, and now this is all curved up. I don't know. So we'll see. We're now going to go through the same process with all of these that we did with the original, with the full thickness pieces. And I know that working with these veneered pieces is not going to be the same as working with full thickness wood, but again, this is exploratory. This is me trying to figure out what's going to work and what's not going to work, and just what looks good. So we're going to do that, the same thing, 120, 220, 180, 220, 320, 400. That's what these are all going to get, and that's what I'm going to do now here on. Thinking while I'm sanding this, I dumped a crap load of moisture into this, trying to iron it out flat, and maybe that is our problem here. But that doesn't explain why this one did that, so I don't get it. So anyways, those are all sanded and ready to go. I'm going to seal this or stabilize this, and what I'm using is I'm using Z-Poxy finishing resin, and what I do, and I don't know if you're supposed to do this, I don't know if anybody else does this, it's just the way I do it. I warm it up first, just because it tends to flow better. When I was doing grain filling on the LPJ, the first time I was doing it, it was kind of cold and it was really sticky, and I had some problems with it not getting down into the area that I wanted it to get into. So that's just something. It's just something I do. I'm going to use a squeegee to smooth it out. I just use denatured alcohol to wipe the squeegee off with. This is not, it's not rocket science. I'm not as much attempting to fill pores with this as I am trying to stabilize this wood. As I've mentioned, the spalting process, it makes the wood unstable. Some of the wood gets really soft, and then it creates just kind of pock marks in different areas, little fissures, little cracks. It looks great, but from a structural point of view, just use this while we got it to just kind of get it going. I'm going to work this back and forth because I want it to get into all those little holes, all those little crevices. And that way when we come back and sand it, all those little areas will be filled up. We'll sand the top layer of the epoxy off, and that should leave us with a very smooth, very stable piece of wood. Man, this just looks great. Just the color, the richness of that that's coming out. There's an area kind of up here in the north where I want to make sure I get this in, because there's some pretty big kind of valleys in here. Once again, the exciting and oh so sexy life of fun with wood. Yeah, this section right here, kind of south, there's a knot right here, and there's a section right in there. You kind of see these light colored spots. Those are all areas where there's a good amount of epoxy getting soaked in there. I don't know if you can tell this or not, it's really kind of soaking this stuff up. There's not going to be a huge amount when I finally squeegee this off of here. is starting to get a little bit tacky. So you really see the difference in that side versus that side. Well, this is just wax paper that I somewhat taped down. Alright. So, there we go. One epoxied piece of spalted maple, and the sad part is I'm on vacation for 2 weeks, so we'll have to see what we get when we come back. You know, I'll probably check in later this afternoon just to see how it's setting up, kind of what it's looking like. I know I can already tell you I'm gonna have to do this at least one more time, maybe 2 more times, because there's an area right in there where it's sunk in and there's just not enough to fill it. We'll probably have to do this at least once more, maybe twice more. Here, let's do this. Come on, here we go. Right in there. There's kind of a little rift, a couple of little valleys right in there that haven't gotten filled in, that will get filled in subsequently. Same here, there's kind of a rough spot there that's not all the way filled in, as well as right in here. You can see it's still pretty rough, but golly, it is pretty, ain't it? It's a little, get the shiny working for us. See if we can do that over here. There you go, that's good. See where that's settled down in there. All right, there we are. One epoxied piece of spalted maple, and with only minimum epoxy on my personage. All right, we'll look back on this afternoon and see what's done. All right, here we are. It's the afternoon. So probably about 4 hours into the application of this. This is going to be the last thing that I'm able to do before I got to get out of here. The epoxy's dried fairly well, as Z-Poxy does. It goes pretty quick. But you might be able to see in this area right there, it looks a little rough. In the area down here, there are some kind of channel looking areas, but let's again take a closer look at it. Well, not like that. Let's look at it with the other camera, and then we can see kind of how we've still got quite a bit of work to go on this. So here you are. This is at the very edge. Let's see if we can find this with, here we go. That'll tell you, that's the end of my pencil right there. So this is how big we're looking. If we start creeping across, You can see there is, that's a fissure right there. Right up there. And down here, that's actually a crack that we're going to have to continue to fill in. And then you can see these little holes here as we march on down. This is that area where you see those little tiny holes just north of, just kind of north of this part right here. I'll try to picture in picture so I can, here, let's do this. Alright, this is the area that we're looking at. Just right there. And so that is area that's going to need to be filled in with more epoxy. And we'll just kind of keep creeping on down here, and you can see that even though this was sanded pretty smoothly, when we look at it closely, it's got kind of a ways to go. So there we go. We just walked all the way across that. And that's where we're at. So yeah, this is the area right in there that we're really going to have to work on. And unfortunately, I am smack dab out of time. So with any luck, I will have actually spread this kind of across across my time that I've been gone, and hopefully as you're seeing it, I'll just be jumping right back in without too huge of a delay. Until then, mask up, manage your dust, and enjoy fun with wood.